Hello everybody, I hope you're doing great and you're enjoying this section. I hope you're all fine. Welcome to Operation Management. I am Iman Hassanin Taha, Assistant Lecturer at Business Administration Department, English Section, Faculty of Commerce. And this section is based on material taken from the textbook under the supervisor of Dr. Ammar Fathi Musa, Assistant Professor of Business Administration, College Vice Dean for Environmental Affairs. Today, inshallah, we will start section number 7, chapter 2, productivity and efficiency. Let's start with the section. First, let's move to on the learning objectives. When you complete this chapter, you should be able to define the productivity, efficiency, and compute single and multi-factor productivity. Also identify the critical variables in enhancing productivity and identify the factor affecting productivity and identifying how to improve productivity as well. Okay, let's move on to the definition of productivity. Here's the issue of productivity and improvement is one of the biggest challenges facing organization of all activities and size in their quest to strengthen and gain a competitive advantage over the other organization working in the same activity. The importance of studying and evaluating productivity result from the importance of growth of economic growth as a central goal of economic policy, where the productivity improves part and total time and most important source of most important source of economic growth, and low productivity rates are one of the main resources for the decline in Arabic growth rate during the recent period. So the importance of studying and improving productive efficiency has also emerged in all countries in general, and developing country in particular, because of their close relationship to the good use of the economic resources available and possible to obtain the largest possible return. Here is the productivity definition. Productivity is the relationship between the output generated from a system and the input that are used to create those output, and mathematically it will be in equation like productivity equal output over the input. So mathematically, how can we increase the productivity? So let's go and see. So let's talk here first about the definition of productivity efficiency. Productivity is an indicator of the extent to which different production elements are able to achieve a certain level of output compared to the input used for productive purpose. So productivity is also defined as the relative relationship between the quantity of production and all the elements of production that contributed to it within a specific period of time. So here is a confusion between the concept of productivity and some other concepts. So you must identify some of the mistakes faced by the researcher and scholars of productivity as follows. Here, number one, talk about productivity is not a synonym with production. So let's see here what's the meaning of productivity and what's the meaning of production. So to compare between them, productivity, production here refer to the total output produced per unit of input. So again, production refer to the total output produced per unit of input, while productivity refer to a measure of outputs resulting from a certain number of inputs. So here productivity is not synonym with production. Number two, productivity is not synonym with profitability. So profitability measure the organization financial position in short term. Let's concentrate here. Profitability measures the organization final position in short term, but while productivity measure the organization long term position. So productivity is not synonym also with profitability. And number three here, productivity is not synonym with production capacity. So the organization can't be considered productive simply because it's produced the highest possible amount of goods in the shortest period of time. Sorry for this interrupt. So we were saying that the organization can't be considered productive simply because it's produced the highest possible amount of goods in shortest period of time. While these goods are not accepted by consumers because they satisfy their needs and desire. So productivity is not synonymous with production capacity. Let's move to number 4. So here number 4 says that productivity doesn't just mean the pursuit of efficiency. Here the organization may resort of pursuing workers to force them to work longer hours, or to get rid of them to reduce production costs and then improve productivity. So productivity means working brilliantly and not just too hard. So let's move to number 5. Number 5 says that productivity is not synonyms with effectiveness only. Productivity for sure equal efficiency and effectiveness. But here let's talk about the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency is the good use of available and possible resources, or doing things right. But effectiveness is the extent to which goals are achieved, or it's doing the right thing. So overall here, productivity is an indicator of doing the right work probably on time. So productivity is an indicator for both effectiveness and efficiency, and can be defined according to 3 views. Number 1, productivity as a ratio between output and input. Researchers here define productivity as a ratio between the total production achieved at a specific time and the factor of production used. Number 2, productivity as a degree of efficiency. Researchers also defined here productivity as a measure of the degree of efficiency on which raw material are converted into commodity. So according to this definition of productivity is related issues that reflects what has already been produced as a theoretical measure of what should have been produced. And number 3, productivity such as a resource efficiency. Also, researchers here defined productivity as the extent to which resources are used according to certain standards, and productivity is also defined as the possibility of producing some quality or better goods or service in units less than factor of production in a specified period of time. So now productivity improvements mean getting more bang for spunk and other, or one, reducing input while keeping output constant, or to increase output while keeping the input constant. And here is just this slide goes over, productivity is the ratio of output goods and service divided by the input. So you must make sure you get the that there will definitely be a question, and you are going to have knowledge on this for the subordinate scales for the rest of the course. So please pay attention to this slide, and the objective is to improve productivity. Important. Production is a measure of output only, not a measurement of efficiency. So you may see that again, maybe yes, maybe no. So now you are going to draw your attention to improving productivity at Starbucks. This slide describes how some relatively simple management and equipment changes improve Starbucks productivity significantly, which lead to six-figure increase in revenue outlets. So they stopped requiring signatures on credit card purchases under $25. That saved 80 seconds per transaction. There was a change in the size of the ice scooper that saved 14 seconds per drink. The new espresso machine says 12 seconds per shot. So you know how all this adds up, and you also see the breakdown between money and time. You know how time can be broken down the money, and vice versa. And for effectiveness and efficiency improvement on process improvement, this second here to the right up, the added up, and and then the transaction of the money for the organization. So by redesigning a scooping motion and cutting 12 seconds off, then hot espresso shot, resulting in an increase in the average transaction per hour to 11.7. So that 11.7 more transaction per hour in a 46 increased and yearly volume by 2,500,000 to about $1 million. So overall result was 27 improvement in productivity and approximately 4.5 per year in the service industry. A 4.5 per year increase. I think it's very, very tasty. So I'm going to let you digest this formula here before I started speaking to it. So the next 3 slides will present the most common productivity formula used, and this slide illustrates the basic, which is productivity equal unit produced over input used. And this slide show the basic formula, and we are going to get into it, and we are going to illustrate how it's used. It's important to note that the measurement of the productivity can be quite direct, such as case when productivity is measured by labor hour per ton of a specific type of steel, Now also labor hour is common measure of input. Other measures such as capital or dollars invested or material, for example. Also, for example, when we just use of steel, it would be tons of oil, or it could be an energy or kilowatts of electricity can be used. And this slide provides an example of a single factor productivity measure in this case, the common measure of labor productivity. Therefore, if units produced were 1,000 units and the labor hour used is 25, then $1,000 divided by 250 would equal 4 units produced per hour. So you see how that's work. I want to go over that again. So while you are looking at this slide, here an example of a single factor productivity measure. And as you look at the slide, so you're looking at this slide, if the unit produced were 1,000 units and the labor hour used is 250, then 100,000 divided by 250 would equal 4 units produced per labor hour. Now this slide depicts a multi-factor productivity measure. Notes the multi-factor measure only makes sense if all inputs are expressed in the same unit, which would usually be a monetary unit such as dollar. Now multi-factor productivity is also known as total factor productivity. So you may see it broken down this total factor, but in most cases throughout this course you are going to see a multi-factor. Now multi-factor productivity is calculated by combining input units, and in this case the input are labor, material, energy, and mesclance. Now this individual's input will compare as the denominator of the equation. And also we have finished here for today, and the second section inshallah will be an example to illustrate more about single factor productivity and multi-factor productivity.